Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Creature Clash, a podcast where we talk about everything from D&D to SCP and everything in between. My name's Alex.
I'm Dawn.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Trey.
And today we're going to take a deep dive into the fantastic world of Antman. Now, Dawn, you've said that you've had some pretty strong feelings about Antman before. So do you want to give us a little rundown about what issues you have with this otherwise perfect character?
Sure. We'll go one at a time and we can pick it apart. First off, I do want to say I love the movies and I love the character. I just have some issues with the science. So, for example, he can shrink and grow, right? And the explanation behind it isn't that like the molecules in him are shrinking, it's that all of the atoms are getting closer together or further apart when he shrinks and grows. That's how it's explained. So I'll pick one of the issues with this. He would still weigh the same no matter what size he is.
His mass is...
Yeah. If all the atoms are just getting closer together, his weight isn't changing. So there's a lot of things that he does that shouldn't work. For example, riding around on an ant.
Like you should crush it just by sitting on it?
Yeah, he should still weigh the same as a full-grown man because all the atoms are just closer together.
What you're saying is that no matter what size Ant-Man is, he's always going to be dummy thick.
That's not what I said, but sure.
Okay.
That's just for our younger viewers to give them, a bit of context,
Well, what would we do without you?
No, right? Yeah, that is a good point, because he would still weigh the same, even if he grew or shrank. So any ants that he tried to ride would just be instantly crushed under his weight.
Another one with the same, context. This one might be possibly explained, but like his inner workings in his body shouldn't work the same. Like, down on a chemical level, like breathing shouldn't work. And just things like this shouldn't work because his anatomy is different. But I'm willing to accept that his suit has some kind of science that we're not yet aware of that fixes this.
What do you mean that he wouldn't be able to breathe?
Well, just think of simple things. Even alright, just look at a cell and the membrane has holes in it, making it permeable. It's semi-permeable, right? But if all the atoms are closer together, it might not work the same. Like the membrane could fall apart or become too solid. Just all these things that are super fragile. We're very specific machines, and changing everything to that level, how would you interact with your environment the same?
So you're saying such a dramatic change to his body, and not only his body, but his anatomy in general, would definitely cause some kind of issue.
Yeah.
That is a good point. I wonder if there's a 100 or a 50 years later type comic where it shows all the negative effects that the superheroes are finally feeling from their own powers, and Ant-Man is just in an iron lung helping him breathe and function.
Well, I mean, like I said,
sorry,
though,
Don,
maybe the
is that
suit.
funny to you?
I was just about to say.
You're laughing at the tragedy that Ant-Man's life has become?
I don't think it's likely for that comic to ever exist, but
I don't know. It could exist, but that is a good point. I guess I never really thought about it like that. How because when you typically watch these movies, your brain kind of switches onto that. Yeah, let's get to some superhero shenanigans type mode. But that is a really good point. I had no idea that. I didn't even think about the effects on his body like that. But his suit, I would imagine, has some kind of way to keep him functioning.
yeah, and I'm willing to accept that.
With him in such a place as the quantum realm for a while.
That brings up another point, but I wanted to mention first, if his suit is what keeps him alive, then how does it work for his ants? Because they grow at some points too.
Yeah, they get big.
Yeah.
Well, how long is the lifespan of an ant?
Oh, I don't know, but they shouldn't even be able to breathe if they're that big. Because that's a whole other thing, ants in particular, and insects in general, there's a reason that they're so small. It's because they breathe through their skin. They don't breathe like we do. And they need that surface area relative to their innards. Because there's things explaining how not ants, but insects in general used to be a lot bigger when the earth had more oxygen in the air, because they were able to take in more oxygen. So they could be bigger, but that's just not the case anymore.
Huh.
If you think about the ants growing, because you know how, with the mass doesn't change, he's super strong when he's small. Would the ants be super weak when they're big?
I don't know. I guess Well, I mean, there's those points where Ant-Man grows and then he's like destroying things around him. Like he got
Yeah,
strong.
like follow that premises in that way either. Then, because if he's
Oh,
big,
I suppose it would be
like,
pretty easy to take a building apart if you were a big human, no matter how strong you actually were. If you were a huge,
but if the mass of a normal human is spread out so much that you're the size of like a 8-story building, then you would think you would be pretty fragile.
that's a good
Oh,
point.
yeah. Like your bones would be less dense.
Yeah, to the point where crushing things would not happen at all. You would crush yourself.
Maybe it's more like a defense mechanism where it's just used to scare his enemies. And he actually doesn't want to fight them while he's huge.
I don't know.
I don't know, but that's a good point. Man, a lot of good points being brought up about Ant-Man right now and how he.
Oh, not like Ant-Man now.
Oh, no.
Now I hate Ant-Man. Don.
He's one of my favorite superheroes.
Yeah, one of the favorite superheroes that can't breathe when he's small and has some glass when he's huge.
God.
All right, I had one more issue, and then I wanted to like relate it to D&D, but
Yeah.
All right, so my one more issue is when he shrinks infinitely into the quantum realm, right? So in that, he's going so small that he goes subatomic, meaning he shrinks even more than an atom, like he's smaller than an atom. Mm-hmm. And that brings up the whole thing, well the way that he shrinks,
Well, how tall is Adam?
An atom.
Adam, how tall are you? For the viewers at home.
6 foot.
Okay, so he shrinks smaller than 6 feet. I don't think that's that big of a deal.
Okay. But anyways, the issue with this is that if the atoms, him shrinking is just the atoms getting closer together, then there should be a limit to how small he can go, because he shouldn't be able to get smaller than an atom when the atoms themselves, like in him, aren't shrinking.
Well, another thing in the show, in the movie though, is that like the regulator that like kind of controls the atoms, or the atoms getting closer together kind of thing, you have to turn that regulator off to be able to go subatomic.
Mm-hmm.
So that might explain it a little more scientifically. I don't know how to explain it at all, but
oh, so you're saying that the regulator is keeping the atoms from shrinking?
like the regulator is like turning off the regulator might make the atoms shrink. Because, yes. Sorry, yes. I understand your question now, yeah. The regulator is what's keeping the atoms themselves from shrinking, I believe.
Oh, that'd be an interesting point. I'm willing to
And
accept that.
Turning off that regulator makes it so the atoms are shrinking as well as him.
Okay.
That's the way I saw it, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'd accept that. Does it ever explain how he breathes?
No.
Go back to if Ant-Man gets really big, then his bones are basically made of glass. How hilarious would it be if Ant-Man fought the Hulk and he got super big and the Hulk punched him, and then Ant-Man just ragdolled around the world for a couple of days because his bones are so... Now that's a movie I would want to see. Because could you imagine if they did that on Thanksgiving? The Hulk just punches a giant Ant-Man and he just starts ragdolling, and then it's the Macy's Day Parade and they're like, oh look, there's an Ant-Man balloon, but it appears to be deflated. And just like start...
That'd be a cool little cutscene through it. like the action's going on and that cuts to like somebody standing on the side. Oh look, it's Ant-Man.
Could you imagine how much that would scar a child, though, if they saw that? Oh, hey, Mom, Ant-Man's my favorite superhero. Oh, that's nice, sweetie. Just gets punched really super big and just all his bones shattered. He falls to the ground in this mess of flesh. It's just, he can't like move or anything like that, and he can't speak because his spine is also shattered and he can't walk ever again.
Pretty tragic, I'm not gonna lie.
Ant-Man has the potential to be the most tragic character in Marvel if they do it right.
Yeah.
Hey, Marvel heads, you need to listen to this podcast and start thinking a little more when you start throwing out random science bullshit into the world.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess
Hey,
that's
if you
my...
sponsor us, we won't crack on.
That's my issue, though, is like, if it's just magic, I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? But they tried to explain it with science, and that's why I have to pick it apart.
Well, isn't their explanation also kind of just mystic science bullshit, where it's the pin particle that does all this?
Yeah.
So maybe the pin particle has some kind of effect where it
though.
prevents all of these negative effects from happening, and that's why it's capable of shrinking and growing without having any adverse side effects.
But the particle was scientifically made by him himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it's the Pym particle. So maybe the Pym particle is just random science magic bullshit that prevents Ant-Man from having all these effects done to him.
The whole saying that magic is just science we don't understand yet.
Well, no,
Yeah.
well, it's kind of, okay, so it's kind of like in a sci-fi movie,
Oh.
where they're like, here's this scientific bullshit explanation for how this is possible. And so I just call it science magic bullshit. So the Pym particle is just science magic bullshit that
Yes.
it explains away all the negative effects that Ant-Man could possibly feel. But if we take away the Pym particle, then you're right, it doesn't make much sense. If we just say that, Ant-Man is able to grow and shrink, with the use of science, but we take the Pym particle away, then perhaps he would feel all of these negative effects.
Mm-hmm. But like, it's the Pym particle is their scapegoat.
Right.
Being like,
It's like,
like,
how
well,
can he breathe when he's super small? Pym particle. Okay. They're super big. Pym particle.
oh.
How come Ant-Man is able to shrink to a subatomic level? Pym particle. Okay.
Fair enough.
That works for me.
But I don't know. I don't know why. I just love the idea of like Ant-Man. Like, what if he didn't know the effects of growing big, and his bones just became glass, and he took one step, and his entire leg just shattered?
Well, I don't think he would shatter under his own weight, though, because his weight would still be the same.
Mm-hmm.
Although with his bones
Thing
being...
at all that will affect him
Yeah.
would then just.
But it's like, imagine if he stepped on a car, and then like
Broke his foot.
the bones in his feet just shattered, and the flesh just kind of absorbed around the car, and he's like, that's weird. It was like I stepped on a Lego. Oh my gosh!
Oh my goodness.
It's funny that you're interested in the like larger part of it, because I'm more interested in the smaller part of it. Like, if he's still the same weight, imagine him going like subatomic into an object, and then you go to pick up that object, and suddenly it's like 200 something pounds instead of like 5 like it was before.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah,
stuck in it forever.
If he snuck into like a basketball game and he like strapped himself to the basketball and made him really tiny so they couldn't see him.
Went
and
inside
then,
of it or something.
Right. They tried to pick it up and they're like, or he got into like a bowling ball or something. Yeah, there are a lot of shenanigans Ant-Man could have. But I think the only reason why I'm interested in like if he was big is there's something about a superhero or a super being that when there's a chance for them to severely break a part of their body, just interesting to see how they would react to that. So like if Ant-Man just shattered his arm, how would he react to that?
He'd probably have something funny to say.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, I wasn't anticipating that.
I don't know that he's really a pun
I think
guy.
you put too much in on the tisk than the ant.
Or it's
You're
just,
like-
something about, like, I don't know. It's just something about if Ant-Man was super big and his bones were made out of glass, and then he tried to fight someone like the Hulk, how messed up would his entire body get after that first punch? Like,
He'd be dead.
he would be dead. And his body would just ragdoll everywhere.
Yeah.
And it would be this huge dead ragdoll body. And they would
Would he
have,
like blow away?
He's
He
still
might.
200 something pounds. I don't know how much Paul Rudd weighs, but he's still,
200 something pounds spread out among 300 feet worth of surface area.
Oh, he's like
That's
a sail.
Yeah, he just kind of blow away.
he would just kind of blow away. And then he would end up on like, or they would just leave his body there, and then his body would just start slowly decaying, and then you would just have this giant shattered skull in the middle of downtown New York or something. I don't know. It's just, to me, it would just be so messed up, but also kind of funny. Because he just has all this confidence. He's like
Interesting.
super big, and then just boom, one punch, and then bones are dust.
Well, that's
All right, let's try to relate this to D&D now.
oh, definitely.
Okay.
Adam?
I love how we were just like, all right, yeah. Hey, Adam. How do we do
Adam,
that?
so tell me, how can Ant-Man work in D&D?
The only thing that I really said about Ant-Man was that he could be the new world's heaviest medicine ball.
Okay.
And then relating to a D&D sense, the spell large/reduce exists, so you can increase or decrease the size of a creature, but even that is limited to a size of a creature. So a humanoid, which is a medium, can go up to a large size or a small size. It doesn't go tiny or gigantic.
That is
So, I
interesting.
didn't know.
Why does he
So
have
for-
in-betweens? Like, we only ever see him as, like, riding an ant or, like, as big as a building. Why do we never see him as just, like, taller Paul Rudd or shorter Paul Rudd?
Like 6 foot Paul
In
Rudd.
the second movie, he was like a kindergartner size. The regulator broke, and he was like the size of like a kindergartner.
Was that Ant-Man and the Wasp?
I do believe.
Okay, because I didn't see that one, so.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it would be funny to see like a 6 foot Paul Rudd just try to do a basketball game.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
But so Adam, what if I was a gnome character? Can I go even smaller than gnome size, or
You
Can I
can
not
with the spell, yeah.
so
The
I can
gnome-
tiniest gnome in the world,
yeah,
or the
you could
biggest?
be. Yes, you definitely can be, because a gnome is classified as a small creature, so you can be a tiny gnome or a medium gnome.
Oh.
I want to be a tiny gnome.
Okay, you know how, humans, we have that mutation that causes, like, little people. Do gnomes have that?
Like a form of dwarfism.
Yeah, but as a gnome, which is already tiny, so then it would be like a tiny gnome.
I would imagine so, because dwarfism in real life is not just limited to humans. There are
Right.
also other animals that can be affected by it as well. So I would imagine that a gnome could also be affected by dwarfism.
Could you have a dwarf with dwarfism?
It's probably called something
Now
different.
we're thinking big games here. Yes, you probably could. And by the way, if anybody's listening to this and they're offended by the term dwarfism, that's the actual term for it. So, blame
Go on
science.
Faye's bad side again.
Yeah. Blame science, not me. I didn't name it.
Well, dwarves are cool anyway.
True.
Shouldn't be offended by it. They're awesome.
But yeah, I would assume that there could be a gnome afflicted by dwarfism. But now we're getting off topic, alright?
Well, is it not about being really small or being really big?
That's true, but in relation to Ant-Man, Adam, what's the smallest thing I could be in D&D and also have the ability to get smaller?
Kobolds are pretty small.
Oh.
Kobolds are small.
But
The
are they small?
kobolds and gnomes are almost the same height.
Are they?
So, yeah. So you pretty much take your pick from those two. Or goblin as well.
So one of those with dwarfism.
And the power of Ant-Man to shrink themselves even smaller.
Yes.
That would get you into some shenanigans. Could you imagine if you were like a thief gnome or a thief kobold and you had dwarfism and then you also shrink yourself even smaller?
Well, if you really want to get, like, very technical by the way of, like, abilities and stuff, you can totally be a druid and, like, be shaped into a rat and then have somebody do reduce on the rat and then you'd be, like, an inch tall rat. So you could really...
Well, could you turn yourself into something like an ant or something?
Oh yeah, you definitely could do that, so you could be even smaller.
Can I turn myself into a dust mite?
Can they
don't
fly?
see why not. Well, I guess
Do you have to have
technically-
seen it?
Yeah. I was about to suggest that you technically have to be able to see things, have seen the things in order to be shaped into said creature.
So I just get a microscope and look at some
Yeah.
dust and then boom, dust mite.
Yeah,
There
get
you
that
go.
microscope in dragons. That's very common.
All right, let's go the other direction. What are some big things that you can beast shape into? Like high level.
I don't know about beast shape, but if you have the spell shape change, you can really start changing into some large, powerful creatures. Like at level 20, you basically can turn yourself into a creature of a CR 20, so that starts in... I know adult dragons definitely cover that territory. I'd have to look up ancient dragons. I don't know what their CRs are. I think white dragons might not be CR 20. I think they're like 24.
That would be insane.
and then someone casts, what is it, enlarge?
Yeah.
Be awesome.
That would be crazy. Oh, man.
Oh no, an ancient white dragon is a CR20.
Hey.
So there you go. They are the smallest of the dragons, but they are still big. So enlarge a ancient white dragon, and then you got yourself a pretty large, I guess, enlargement spell casted. I don't know how to get that technical. There you go. That might be some of the biggest things. I think that's the biggest general thing. If you want to go for like height, though, I think Storm Giant is what you're looking for. If I remember correctly, I believe they stand at least 20 feet tall, which they're CR13. So yeah, you could definitely turn it into one of those. And if you enlarge them, they probably get to 30 feet tall.
Yeah, now imagine a storm giant that's unusually tall.
Now, do you remember, how about was it called a Titan Warforged that you had mentioned in a previous episode?
There is a Titan Warforged and there's a Colossal Warforged.
What about a Colossal Warforged?
Those, I believe they're like 80 feet tall.
I think that's what you said before.
Yeah,
Imagine
so enlarge that gets around like 120.
Yeah. Boom.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I don't know why it went with the Ancient White Dragon, but I don't think you can shape change into a Colossal Warforged.
True.
Well, hypothetically, let's.
Can we brand a Colossal Warforged?
So hypothetically, if you could shape change into it, then yeah, you could be the tallest shape changed creature. They are CR25, so.
Crushing my dreams, just like Ant-Man's bones.
Oh.
Does anybody know, there's a similar character to Ant-Man in the DC universe, the Atom, I think he's called. Does anyone know if that's explained?
That's just a mutant power, basically.
No,
That
he
has
has a suit that does it.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably,
He's
there's
like
probably
a rich...
not like a real explanation. It's probably just I can shrink and I can grow. I am the Atom.
There might be some explanation. I don't remember enough to...
I don't know. Magic science bullshit. Who knows?
Yeah. But yeah, he's kind of like Batman. He's super rich and smart and builds a suit. So it's the suit that does it for him.
So like
Just
Iron
like
Man.
Ant-Man. Yeah, Iron Man. Yep. That's definitely the comparison. He's just like Iron Man, but shrinks and grows like Ant-Man.
Like a worse Iron Man.
Well, but he has all the same abilities as Iron Man though, because he can shoot from his suit and stuff too.
Yeah, he does have repulsor beams.
Yeah, he's like Iron Man. Like he has all the same things as Iron Man, but he can also shrink and grow. Well, he doesn't have Jarvis though, so yeah, worse Iron Man.
Jarvis, R.I.P.
Stop.
Wait, what?
Spoiler alert.
Hey,
That's been out long enough. What's the rule? 3 months?
Yeah.
I'd say we're well past that.
Yeah.
It's 3 months past the movie and then 2 months past the DVD release or something like that. I don't know. After the DVD comes out, you should have seen it.
Gotcha.
That's my opinion. No spoiler.
Yeah, it's been like a year or so I think I'm good.
You're covered.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Hey, everybody, Iron Man dies at the end.
Whoa!
So sad.
Spoiler.
I feel like
Fact.
we're really stretching now, so it can be a shorter episode.
All right. Everybody, thanks for listening to this mini-sode of Creature Clash. We will hear you all again next time. Goodbye.